Welcome back to the Bad Influence Podcast, Relationship Wednesday, where we tell you why unspoken expectations hurt your relationship. I'm the bad influence that you need in your life, Bjordan Banderas. Have you ever been upset with your partner for not doing something you thought was obvious? Like, why didn't they call when they were late? Why didn't they remember the anniversary or get that one thing you needed without having you to ask? If you have done this, then here's a question for you. Did you ever actually tell them it mattered? Because if not, what you're dealing with is an unspoken expectation. And that, my friends, is a recipe for disaster. Unspoken expectations are like silent landmines in a relationship. You can walk around them for a while, maybe even ignore them, but eventually one goes off and there's no going back. They lead to misunderstandings, resentment, and the kind of tension that's hard to shake. Today, we're diving into the real cause of these unspoken rules and why they're so damn dangerous. Think about it. How often have you expected your partner to read your mind? To know why you're upset without you saying a word? We've all done it, and I'll be the first to admit it. It's a trap I've fallen into. But if you want a strong, lasting relationship, you've got to ditch the unspoken rules and start laying it all out in the open. In this episode, we're unpacking the silent killer of relationships, unspoken expectations, and how to stop them from tearing you apart. Unspoken expectations are exactly what they sound like. Expectations that we hold in our heads without ever telling our partners about them. They're those little assumptions about how our partner should act, think, or feel. And here's the thing. They're often shaped by our own backgrounds, past experiences, or even the media. We expect our partner to call when they're late, to help around the house without being asked, or to be affectionate in a certain way, because that's what we think a loving partner does. But here's the problem. Our partner doesn't live in our head. They can't magically know all these rules we're holding on to if we don't tell them. Psychologists say that unspoken expectations can build quiet tension in relationships. They create an invisible distance between you and your partner. Because every time they miss one of these rules, it chips away at your trust and connection, even though they didn't even know the rule existed. Think about it. How fair is it to expect someone to meet a need you never express? And yet, we all do it because we think they should just know. But that mindset, that silent assumption is toxic to any relationship. Unspoken expectations breed resentment. You expect one thing, your partner does another, and suddenly there's this wall of disappointment. You're hurt because they didn't meet a need they never knew they had, or they never knew you had. It's like setting someone up to fail, and that hurts you both. Oh yes, it hurts you so much that sometimes you don't even know it. And over time, these unmet expectations start to pile up. And instead of addressing them, you start seeing your partner through a lens of disappointment. You're thinking, they should just know this by now. But they're completely in the dark. Every time they don't meet one of these invisible rules, it builds another layer of resentment. The real tragedy is that you're silently blaming someone you love for a crime they didn't even know they committed. And that blame festers for a really long time. It shows up as irritation, as distance, and eventually as detachment. And when that detachment sets in, fixing the relationship gets a whole lot harder. The good news is that you can fix it. But here's the hard part. It starts by recognizing these expectations and taking responsibility for communicating them. It starts with openness. That's one of the few words that starts with O that men hate, and sometimes women too. Openness. I'll be honest, I've been guilty of this too. At the beginning of my marriage, I'd expect my wife to just get what I needed without me ever saying a word, a single word. I thought if she really cared, she would just know. So, if I had a bad day, I'd expect her to know without me telling her. And when she didn't respond the way I wanted, I'd get pissed. One day, I realized how unfair I was being. My wife asked me outright, "How am I supposed to know what you're thinking if you don't tell me?" And it hit me. She was right. The logical part of my brain went like, ding! She's right. You cannot say anything against that. Like, there's no defense against that. I realized that I was setting her up for failure by expecting her to read my mind. That was the moment I started being more vocal about my needs. It wasn't easy at first, but as soon as I began to express what I actually wanted, the tension melted away. She was able to understand me better, and I wasn't building resentment every time she didn't read my mind, which is extremely important in a relationship. Being open saved a relationship. And that's the power of saying what you need out loud instead of assuming the other person should just know. So, why do we keep these expectations hidden? For one, there's fear. Fear of being vulnerable, of seeming too needy, or of sparking a conflict. We don't want to look like we're asking too much, so we keep quiet, hoping our partner will just figure it out on their own. Because now they live with us, right? There's also the fear of rejection. If we say what we need and our partner doesn't respond the way we hope, it can feel like a rejection. But that's just insecurity talking. When you're in a healthy relationship, expressing your needs should feel safe, not scary. Then there's the assumption trap. We think, if they love me, they should just know what I want. They should know everything I like, the color I like, the food I like, the relationship I have with my family. Even though I never talk about that, they should just know. But that's not love. That's telepathy. And real love doesn't work that way. Let me tell you. Love is built on communication, not mind reading. So, recognize these reasons. Ask yourself if you're holding back because of fear or insecurity. The sooner you start talking openly, the sooner you'll see how much stronger your relationship can become. Open communication is the only way to break free from unspoken expectations. It's about saying what you need and doing it without apology. It's about trusting your partner enough to share your vulnerabilities and trusting yourself enough to ask for what you deserve. Think about it. If you're willing to be open, you give your partner the opportunity to actually meet your needs. You're letting them step up instead of silently holding it against them when they fall short. Open communication isn't just about speaking, though. It's about listening to. If your partner shares their expectations, be there to listen without judgment. This is a two-way street. And when both sides commit to open dialogue, you start to build a partnership based on understanding and respect. Once you start this process, you'll be amazed at the trust it builds. Believe me, you'll be amazed. You'll be like, damn, I should have done this a long time ago. So instead of feeling like your partner is constantly disappointing you, you'll feel connected and supported when you start doing this. But how do you start breaking down these unspoken expectations? Well, here are the steps. Step 1 is start with self-reflection. Ask yourself what you truly want from your relationship. Dig deep, because you're not going to find the answer on the surface. You have to go deep. Identify the things you've been expecting your partner to just know without you saying. Step 2, write them down. Sometimes seeing your expectations on paper makes it easier to understand if they're fair and realistic. Once they're in front of you, you can evaluate them and see if you're holding your partner to an impossible standard, which a lot of us do. We hold our partner to an impossible standard that they're never going to reach, and then we get mad when they don't reach it. I've seen it so many times. I've done it, and it causes so many issues in a relationship. Step 3, have the conversation. Sit down with your partner and share what you wrote. Tell them, hey, I realize I've been expecting you to do things without me ever telling you, and that's not fair, because it is not. Open up the dialogue. And lastly, step 4, make it a habit. Check in with each other regularly. Unspoken expectations don't disappear overnight. But the more you practice open communication, the easier it becomes. To keep this going, here are some tools that can help you. First up, set regular check-ins. Once a week, sit down and ask, how are we doing? Is there anything we need to talk about? This keeps things from festering. Another tool I use is I statements. Instead of saying, you never do this, try, I feel hurt when this doesn't happen. It's a subtle shift, but it keeps the focus on how you feel instead of blaming them. Also, practice active listening. When your partner shares their expectations or needs, don't interrupt or jump in with solutions. Just listen. All you have to do is just listen to them, look at them in the eyes, and listen. It shows respect and lets them feel heard. Finally, remember to be patient with each other. Breaking the habit of unspoken expectations isn't easy, but with time, you'll start to see a stronger, healthier relationship. At the end of the day, unspoken expectations are silent relationship killers. Yes, they are. They're unfair to you and your partner, and they create distance where there should be connection. If you want a relationship that's strong, open, and real, and when I say open, I don't mean an open relationship, I mean open with each other. It all starts with communicating what you actually need. Imagine a relationship where you don't have to second guess each other, where both of you feel fully seen, heard, and understood. That's the relationship that open communication builds, and it's worth every uncomfortable conversation to get there. So here's your challenge. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be challenging you. Today, think of one expectation you've been holding on to without voicing it. Then, find a moment to sit down with your partner and share it. Oh, I know that's going to be hard. Start small, but start somewhere. Don't brush everything under the rug. Don't sweep it under the rug. Don't do that shit, because the moment you trip, someone is going to fucking snap. Either you or the other person. And at the end of the day, it's not good for your relationship, for you, and for the other person. Especially, listen to me, especially if you guys have kids, right? It's not fair for your kids and for the relationship itself and for the home, because your kids are going to feel the resentment between you two, the distance, and a lot of times, and this has been proven by child psychologists, a lot of the times when a marriage or a relationship has issues, the kids feel responsible. And a lot of the issues start with unspoken expectations. So do this for the relationship. Do this for your kids if you guys have kids. Do it for you and for your partner. And that's it for today. If this episode hit home for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, strong relationships are not built on silent assumptions. They're built on truth, vulnerability, and the courage to say what you need. Until next time, keep building those connections and stay true to yourselves. And have a great day.